Greetings, Starfleet. My name is Rear Admiral Stephen Stott. I'm the first officer of the USS Ronald E. McNair out of Region 1 and speaking to you from the bridge of the McNair. I'm also the Inspector General for Starfleet and the election coordinator for this year's Commander Starfleet election. What I wanted to do is spend a few minutes with you talking to you about how the process is going to be so that you can be ready and understand what your responsibilities will be when it comes time for you to vote. Simply Voting is the voting vendor that we will use. We used Simply Voting last year, and they are an international organization. They're actually out of Canada. They are GDPR qualified or certified, and that means that they will take great care in the security of our election to include the security of the information of our members. They've been vetted. They've done an outstanding job with us before, and we're going to use them again in this election. This will be an online election, meaning that each member will receive an email, and I'll go into that further as we talk about this. Our election is handled by the rules governed by our membership handbook. As you may or may not know, if you're just a member in Starfleet and a local chapter and just involved in chapter level activities, Starfleet is an incorporated entity, association, fan organization, and we are chartered out of the state of North Carolina. So there are rules that we have to go by in conducting an election. Even though we're a fan club and we use Starfleet verbiage in terms of how we're organized, for example, the Commander Starfleet is still the chairman or the president of the organization. And the Vice Commander Starfleet is the vice president / secretary of the organization. So by our bylaws and the rules in the handbook, there's procedures that we go by. And how we get a Commander Starfleet is by a triennial or every 3-year election. And we're in that cycle now where the new Commander of Starfleet will take over 1 January of 2023. So we have to use an outside entity. And as I mentioned, that is Simply Voting that will provide the administrative overwatch. My job as the election coordinator is to manage the election process, make sure that it runs smoothly, and that all the candidates are operating within the guidelines from the Admiralty Board and our membership handbook. Speaking of the candidates, our candidates that are running this year, we have 4 candidates that are running along with their running mates. You have Major General T.J. Allen and Admiral Sam Black as a team. You have Admiral David Nottage and Vice Admiral Ryan Case as a team. You have Admiral Jeff Hagen and Rear Admiral Eric Johansson as a team. And finally, you have General Mark Anderson and Lieutenant General Thomas Sigmundson as a team. All the names I mentioned first are the people running for Commander Starfleet, and the people running second are Vice Commander. And those are your slates. If you'll notice, the election this year is a little bit different in that you're not voting for the entire executive committee. You're only voting for the president and vice president. In the election, besides voting for the commander and vice commander Starfleet, there is a motion that you'll be voting on. That's Admiralty Board Motion 22-04. And what it basically means is that you are going to decide if the Chief of Membership Services will become a member of the Executive Committee. We have that position. That's the person that's responsible for processing your memberships, is one of the duties that they have. But this duty is not an executive committee level function. And because based on our bylaws and rules, you have to vote on that. The general membership has to decide whether or not it will become a part of the executive committee. So a yes vote says, yes, we agree to make that a part of the executive committee, and a no vote means no, we do not. If in the end of the election, it comes out that the no's outweigh the yeses, the job stays where it is. However, if a yes vote is in the majority, then it will become a permanent member of the executive committee with voting power on executive committee actions such as promotions and such. And also, it will be on the books of our bylaws as a part of the executive committee. So that's what the resolution is about. So let me talk a little bit about um, the membership handbook and the time limits. As I mentioned starting out, this is a Starfleet election for the commander of Starfleet, and that process started on 1 June when we announced the nomination phase. And the individuals I just mentioned to you all passed that nomination phase. They all got a minimum number of 5 chapters that nominated them from across the fleet. And so they will all be competing in this election. Now, in accordance with our handbook rules, they will be going by initial runoff voting, which means that when you vote, you're going to vote for your first choice, second choice, third, fourth, and then your fourth choice, since we have 4 teams that are running. And I'll explain a little bit about that later. But going back to the timeline, the next phase of what happened was that as of 1 August, we had to lock in the number of people that are voting. You as members are the eligible voters. You had to have your membership has to be active as of 1 August. And in terms of age, you have to be at least 18 years of age. That means everybody that was born on November 15th, 2004 or earlier is eligible to vote in this election. Total number that we have of eligible voters based on our current records is 4,726 individuals that will be able to vote in this election. And for the election to be valid, we have to have at least 20% of that population vote, which means we have to have at least 945 of you members voting out there. So I hope that you will vote. So going back to the process of how this is going to work, as on September 1st, you're going to get an email from Simply Voting. And in that email, it will, acknowledge who you are as well as give you a login link to their website. You'll go to the website, log in, and at the login page for the election, you'll see the candidates that are running. There will also be a link that you can go into to see the platforms of all the candidates, along with the AB resolution that I mentioned earlier. So you'll be able, if you haven't seen the CQ or you haven't been following on Facebook or any of the other media platforms that we use, Discord here in Starfleet, or the any of the listservs that we have that you can be a member of. If you haven't been following any of those, you will, at the very least, when you get your email, be able to go to the site, be able to log in, and go and see the platforms of the different members. And it'll be the same information that you see if you got a copy or logged in and viewed a copy of the communique, our magazine, our quarterly magazine. This quarter's information is all about the candidates. So we'll have that same information available to you as well as the AB resolution, so you can read through it and understand. Now, once that happens, you can go back to the voting section of the website where you're logged in, and you will select who you want to be Commander Starfleet. Like I said, we use instant runoff voting. So you'll prioritize those from 1 to 4. But you don't have to vote for all 4. If you're just an individual that has their eyes set on one team and you say, that's the only team I want, you can vote for that team. And you don't have to vote in priority on any of the other teams. However, you do have the option of prioritizing from 1 to 4 and voting them all in. Now, that's all you have to do. And once you do that, you submit, that vote's locked in, and you're good to go. What'll happen at the end of the election on the 15th, once the ballots have all been closed out, that's when Simply Voting goes to work. Well, they'll be working the whole time, but what they will do at that point is they will tally the votes, and how they will tally them will be in accordance with instant runoff voting, where they will check, see who was number 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the first go round. The person that was the lowest, got the lowest amount of votes in that go round, gets dropped off the list. And their votes will get reallocated based on the algorithm to the 1, 2, and 3 level persons. And then the process goes all over again until we have a winner. And at the end of the election, I will get a report that will show that entire process, who was 4th, who was 3rd, and that information, along with the after action and everything, will be provided to you as the member of Starfleet on how the election goes. I will also give updates as to how many people have voted in the election throughout the election process. Now, there's a couple of things I want to share with you in regards to this process. Like I said, Simply Voting is GDPR certified, and so they will safeguard your information. The only person that can go in and see the information, email addresses, SCC numbers, and the like, is me as the IG, as the election coordinator, and my deputy IG will also be my assistant working this process. He and I will have the ability, Jared Fielder, will have the ability to go in and look at the election. Now, when you vote, we will not be able to see who you voted for. That part is kept confidential. However, I will be able to see the date you voted, the time you voted, and if you voted or not. I will be able to see all of that. And that's important because like last election, we had a couple people that would email and say, hey, I didn't get my ballot. And what I'll do, and if that does happen to you, don't worry. All you have to do is send me an email at ig@sfi.org, and I will check that out. I will check your SCC number because you're going to send it to me. Let me know who you are. I'll verify that you're an active member, and then I will go to the site and punch up your number and see whether or not you voted. If it shows that you didn't vote, I will get with Simply Voting and we will have a new ballot sent to you. However, if you have voted, I will inform you of such and say, hey, there was a vote that was submitted on this date and time group from that SCC number in your name. So it's vitally important that you make sure that the right email address is listed. And speaking of email addresses, when Simply Voting sends out their information, it's important that you check your spam mail just to make sure that it didn't go there first, as opposed to your primary email inbox. That happens from time to time. That may get pushed to spam based on whatever security algorithms your email provider uses, and so be sure to check your spam box, or if you have the ability, coordinate it to where Simply Voting will not be blocked by your server in terms of that. All right. So that's basically the process of what's going to happen during the vote. The voting period runs from 1 September to 15 November. Once 15 November hits, that's at midnight, 11:59 actually, Eastern time, it will cut off the voting process. And at that point, that's when all the votes will be locked in and Simply Voting will do their thing. On the 16th, or normally within about 24 to 48 hours, I will get a letter from Simply Voting, email from them stating what the results, with the package of what the results of the election were. I will at that point inform the commanders, the current commander Starfleet, of the election results, and those will be announced to the general population in terms of who won the election. And then following that, the Commander Starfleet elect will, and Vice Commander Starfleet elect will start the process of coordinating and transitioning with the new Commander Starfleet, with, as I mentioned, them taking office effective 1 January 2023. So that's the process in a nutshell. The last thing I'd like to say to you is that it's vitally important that you vote. As a member of Starfleet, this is the one time, once every 3 years, this is the one time where you have a direct say in the process. And all our elections, like our regional coordinator elections and the like, it's the chapter COs that are involved in the actual voting process. Now, I'm sure in many cases they get with you and get your input, for example, on electing a regional coordinator, and then they put their vote in accordingly or put their nomination in accordingly. And in our nomination process, it's the chapter COs and regional coordinators that provide the nominations. But in the end, it's going to be you as the voting member that decide who the commander of Starfleet is. And so it's vitally important that you do this, that you get in and vote. I know a lot of you did not join Starfleet to vote in elections or deal with politics, but it is very important that you do get involved in this, because you're the one that's deciding who the leadership is for the next 3 years. And I really appreciate you getting involved in that. Take time to look over the platforms. We have Facebook, we have on the Facebook site, we have a Meet the Candidates area where you can go and on Facebook and ask them questions. You can go to the different websites of the different candidates and look at their platforms and ask them questions and email them. I mentioned who the names are, and you're more than welcome to look them up and get in contact with them. Each and every one of the candidates are vetted members in Starfleet that are dedicated to being good leaders and leadership, but it's up to you to decide who you think will be the best to serve Starfleet for the next 3 years. If you have any questions about the process or what's going on, feel free to email me again at ig@sfi.org. And you can ask me any questions that you want regarding the election and the process, and I'll be glad to answer those for you. I look forward to seeing you vote come 1 September. I am looking forward to us having a 90% or better turnout in the voting. That shows how engaged you are. If you are a member that sees this broadcast and know of members within your crew that don't have any clue about what's going on with the election, I encourage you to show them not only this page, but get them LinkedIn. If you're LinkedIn already to what's going on with the election, talk to your fellow members and get them involved and aware. Again, the strength of our fleet is only due to how much you get involved as a member in deciding who the leadership is and making sure that whatever that leadership's platform and direction is one that you want to see for the fleet over the next 3 years, and in some cases, the future of Starfleet and changing the face. I appreciate you taking this time out to see this video and listen to me gab, and I look forward to meeting you hopefully in the future at some point at a conference or a summit, and breaking bread with you as a fellow fan of Starfleet. This is Rear Admiral Stephen Stott, wishing you all live long and prosper.